Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm very excited to be talking with a FinTech product expert. Jas Shah is also the creator of the newsletter FinTech R&R. I'm thrilled to have you with us, Jas. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Effie. Great to be here. And thanks
Yeah.
for that lovely introduction.
Tell us your newsletter, FinTech R&R. What does that stand for? I know that you've been brilliantly covering all sorts of trends and products. I loved your New Year's quiz, your predictions. We'll have the opportunity to talk about them.
Yeah, I'll start with the R&R. It was initially, I was just thinking about product terms that make sense in the context of writing a fortnightly deep dive in a fintech topic. And I just thought of, some things that I used to do fortnightly when I was leading product teams for fintechs was you would have a refinement every couple of weeks and you'd have a retrospective every couple of weeks. And that just meant, look, how did the last couple of weeks go? What did engineering get done? What did product get done? What did design get done? What went well? What didn't go so well? What can we do better going forwards? And then you have a refinement. You'd essentially look at a backlog of items, see what makes sense to put in the next sprint. And so I thought that was the perfect R&R is the perfect kind of blend of, look, I'm also looking back at the news and figuring out what that means, what it means going forwards, what went well and what didn't go so well. So I thought it was the perfect kind of blend. And R&R is also a rest and relaxation. So there was kind of a double-edged meaning there.
Yeah. I mean, there's many interpretations. Maybe it's a retrospective look at what has happened. I mean, you did a brilliant retrospective of your own predictions, 2024 and what actually happened. And of course, your 2025 prediction. So let's start with that. What are your predictions for 2025 in terms of fintech product innovation, and just maybe mix the 2024 ones that actually materialized?
Sure. I'll start with the 2024 ones because let's park 2024. So let's get that done and dusted and move on to 2025. So I did 5. I'll just go through the 3 that were closer to being right than wrong. I don't think there's any right and wrong, but closer to being actualized versus not really seeing much at all. So first one was account to account payment growth and broader consumer understanding. So that was essentially we're looking at pay by bank growth and adoption. It was a prediction I made at the start of 2024, but it was also a prediction I made at the start of 2023, but was maybe a little bit early on it. Yeah. So my 2023 prediction was it's probably going to be led by mainstream partnerships with big brands. And we saw some of that in 2023, but we saw a lot more of it in 2024. So even recently I booked a flight using Ryanair. There was a pay by bank option powered by Trustly. I was looking up literally the same journey. I was looking at a hotel through Booking, and Booking had an integrated pay by bank option at checkout. So that was broadly right. And I think we're going to probably see more of that in 2025. And there's a kind of another linked prediction I'll go through later. The second one that was more right than wrong, actually quite right, was digital identity entering the mainstream. This is mainly led by NatWest and Lloyds signing very big agreements with OneID and Adobe Acrobat to improve the SME financing process and basically creating a bank-led digital identity.
Is that a know your bank rather type of digital, know your business type of digital ID?
Yeah, exactly. Rather than a consumer, rather than an individual, it's more like an SME or SMB digital identity. So it's I mean, the challenge with SME finance is one of onboarding and understanding, going through the KYB process, looking at understanding a UBO structure of an organization.
How is that linked to the specifics of the commercial registry in the UK versus, in other countries, it's totally different? Are they taking advantage of that, or?
I think they do have a company's house connection, and part of that is that they can pull in the list of directors and beneficial owners from that registry. But I think the digital identity part of this is more that for each finance application and each different entity that goes through that finance application, they don't have to do that process again and again and again. They do it once. They do it once, capture all that data once, put it into a digital identity business blob, and then you could port that blob for a different finance application and don't have to repeat the process. You don't have to ask SMEs
So
documentation.
within the NatWest ecosystem, an SME could, do all the range of financial services and not have to repeat the verification process.
Exactly. I think from my understanding, they're in the early stages of that journey, and it is limited to NatWest, the NatWest ecosystem of SMEs. But it just means that NatWest SME could apply for things within the NatWest ecosystem without having to basically multiply applications. And how I see it is effectively a single sign-on for SME anything, not just finance. Could be SME business analytics. It could be SME resourcing support. But it's effectively you verify using a couple of clicks. You don't have to go through that onboarding process again and again and again.
Yeah. I interrupted. So that was
yeah. And then the last one, FinProp tech innovation. So I was, last year was a challenging market a challenging environment for the property market. And one of my predictions was, with some of these challenges usually comes innovation. So there were a few fintech mortgage brokers rising to prominence, becoming more mainstream. I think lots more people have heard of Habito than they did in 2023 and 2022. But I think the big one was, there's an organization called Cojute. They're effectively a kind of blockchain infrastructure layer, and they along with some other big banks and Rightmove and a couple of other property market players have created this initiative to look at what it really means to transform the home buying process and to make it more efficient. So for me, that was a very spot on prediction, because they obviously saw the challenges and decided, look, we're going to create a big initiative to try and improve this across the board, because the challenges with the home buying process, anyone who's been through the home buying process knows every single step is a pain. Trying to get an agreement in principle is a pain. Going through that solicitation process, getting a solicitor, even moving funds is a pain. Going through a property registry check is a pain. All of that, like looking at property logbook, all of that stuff, they're looking, as part of this coalition, looking to improve, put on a blockchain where possible, to make the porting of, again, very similar to digital identity, making it more portable and making the whole ecosystem a bit more customer friendly and less,
and not having to replicate copies of data and have them hanging around, and this is, I guess, these must be permissioned ledgers that
precisely
that allow this verification without needing to move the data, but still being able to verify it, and not creating all these duplicates and the time that is wasted and the resources.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's one I'm personally excited about, because I'm hoping to move home and sell and buy a place a bit further out of London, to be quite honest. And just even starting the process is, I'm just, there's trepidation, even when you look at a house and something you should be excited about, kind of the back end of it, you're always thinking, oh, I have to find a solicitor, I have to do this. I don't know what state the property is in, like the history of the property, what the lease agreement looks like. So it's all stuff that I'm excited that the innovation is finally coming to this area.
Great. So how about 2025? Let's go there now.
Yeah. So literally the first thing I put on my 2025 prediction list was accessibility as an agenda item rather than a footnote. So there's the EU Accessibility Act is coming midway through 2025, and it just means a whole range of organizations, but financial services and fintech included, will have to look at how they deliver products to underserved individuals in a more accessible way. And I just think this is Monzo Bank and Caxia Bank kind of signaled some of this at the back end of last year. They all introduced sign language services, so digitized sign language services. But I think this is going to be a way bigger thing this year. And I think Monzo Bank and Caxia have just seen it on the horizon and acted quite quickly. I think more will follow their lead as they inevitably do.
Interesting that, there's this broadening. You would think that we have kind of exhausted and served everybody, but I guess we haven't.
Yeah, exactly. I think whenever I talk about accessibility, I always give a shout out to Joanne and the team at Project Mono, and they're kind of raising awareness and in a very effective way on the challenges of financial services and generally about accessibility in these products. But from my perspective, I've overseen this, to be honest, in products that I've helped build. I haven't looked at, as a part of our QA process, make sure we have people who are on the less accessible side testing our products. It's always been, let's just get 50 people to test our products. Let's not make sure that they're on, the edge cases. So it's something that I've fallen foul of, but I think going forwards, people will be a lot more aware that the statistics from the EU are there's 87 million Europeans with disabilities. So again, it sounds weird to commercialize it and put it into commercial terms, but you're talking about 87 million strong market effectively that you could be marketing and delivering a product to, but you're explicitly not. So it's more about including it, putting accessibility higher up the agenda item, not only to, for self-serving commercial purposes, but also to build a better product for a broader range of people and to build that stronger relationship.
That's interesting.
Let's go number two. Number two, only five, so there's only 4 more to go. So save now, buy later going mainstream. So I think we've seen the buy now, pay later super growth over the past few years. And one thing I heard the founder of Klarna say recently is that there's some regrets about it. It has sometimes had a negative effect on people using it and getting into more debt. So I think what we'll see is more retailers implementing their own save now, buy later schemes. And the one example that I always reference is there's a thing in the UK called the Park Christmas Club, essentially a savings club for Christmas time. So individuals will sign up, they'll save 50, 100, 200 pounds a month. And then when it comes to end of November, December, they use that funds, they get rewards and bonuses to use those funds within a select group of retailers. So it's like Apple, Currys, Asda, Christmas decorations outlets, restaurant booking places, and it's more responsible way to save up for those bigger purchases rather than putting it on credit. You're putting it on savings.
I'm surprised just that travel businesses haven't done that, because it's the most natural thing. We all dream of a travel, and what if Booking.com had a wallet for that, for you and I to put aside whatever it is, 20 francs, 50 francs, 100 a month towards that dream vacation or location that we want to go, and they haven't.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just jumped straight into my brain there, because that's the example that's the example I use. I don't know why they haven't. I think it's more that traditionally it's, if you're trying to implement these save now, buy later schemes, you usually have to have a license and you have to have an underlying savings account. But like personally, I think there's ways of doing it using open banking access to an existing account and visibility over transactions and a VRP, that you could implement it you could implement a pilot or an MVP without actually having a full-blown license and having that
I
savings
guess
account.
you have it to do it region by region and roll it out depending on the requirements of each region.
I think that's probably why they haven't done it. Again, I'm with you. I would say whenever I go anywhere, my first port of call is booking booking.com to look for accommodation. I'm a Genius 3 level, which I don't think really means that much. But if they had a Genius 4 level where you could sweep £100 a month into an account, I know that by the end of the year, I'd probably use all of that funds. Like 2 hotel bookings is £700 anyway. So if I knew I was going to be rewarded at the end of the year, and I'd maybe part of that savings scheme would mean room upgrades or early check-ins, things like that, I think it would be a no-brainer for customers, and it would also be a no-brainer for companies looking to guarantee income over the course of a year.
Yeah. But I must say, because I'm similar to you, Genius 3, whatever.
Genius 3. Yeah.
Let's not advertise that we're geniuses, right? Somebody
Yeah.
might cut this clip and mock our discussion, but even the rewards are not frictionless. It takes time to earn the rewards, and if I'm traveling, and usually it comes with batches, and like I book, because I know ahead certain plans, I'd like to earn my rewards fast and use them, and that's not the case. So I guess there's more product improvement that can happen in these areas.
Yeah, and I think going into a more of a producty discussion, that there is way more of a product improvement they could have. But there is that balance of cost in like injecting a load of money into a program like this, when really, like I've just said it, I always go to booking.com. You probably do as well.
Yeah.
Millions of others do. So that I guess there's that strategy debate of, look, is there any benefit of us is there overarching benefit of us doing this? Because these customers are probably always going to be customers anyway. So like what's the cost benefit analysis of this new part of a product? And I think maybe they've done that assessment and gone, look, it's not worth the actual overall cost of implementing it. But again, as a customer, I think I'd be tied to them for life if they did it. But I guess there's not such a big competitor that they have to worry about it. And I guess that might be the theory there.
That's the explanation. So let's go quickly over the other ones, because I really want to get to the juice of our discussion about what makes a great product, what makes a smart product. Let's go.
So 3, pay by bank having its pay by crypto having its pay by bank era. All I mean by that is, again, pay by bank over 2023, 2024, used partnerships as an on-ramp for greater adoption. I think pay by crypto will do the same thing. Stripe merchants accepting crypto at e-commerce point of sale will accelerate adoption. That's kind of it. And I think that will happen this year and into 2026.
I'm more hopeful that the adoption may not be so much from the consumer side, but in their supply chain. So the merchants using crypto or stable coins on their supply chain. So that's where I think there's more possibility. And that's where Stripe also will probably help, especially in emerging markets.
Yeah, totally. I mean, cross-border invoices, for example. So I think they've already enabled crypto invoicing. So you could invoice a supplier and take crypto as a payment from a supplier. So I think that I agree with you. I think that's where more of the change will be. I think more of the hype will come from, oh my God, booking.com takes Bitcoin. That's where all of the hype will be, but most of the utility will be in the back end. That's always how it is.
And even what I said, it opens a can of worms, because there's accounting issues that have not been addressed and are getting complicated because we don't have that clarity. So it's not as easy as we like it to think, right?
Yeah, I think there'll be a refit ripple going back from maybe Stripe and then Stripe's dependence. We'll have to make some changes, but remains to be seen. Let's see what happens. But I agree. Point number 4, open banking resurgence. I think I say resurgence feels a bit clickbaity, but I think there has been this, especially in the UK, there's been this, feels like a bit of stagnation with open banking framework and protocols. But the roadmap is now officially complete. So everything that was outlined in 2022 2018 when the OBIE was set up, has now been completed. And also we're seeing a lot more innovative, forward-thinking frameworks in the Middle East. And we've also got US open banking kind of kicking off in earnest. So I think that we'll see more open banking powered products across the planet, and we'll kind of see that resurgence in the UK again, I hope, anyway. And the final one, not just faster payments, smarter payments. So there's a few different things here. There's Visa's flexible credential and SEPA's request to pay service that was playing in my mind as I was writing this, and I just thought that everyone talks about payments as this speed, and security, but I think having rules-based payments, I think will change the way consumers think about payments as this utility to more of a customer-centric thing. So sweeping payments from account to account based on specific rules, having requests to pay on a like P2P platform, for example, something that we don't really have in the UK, but I think UK or EU, but I think we'll see more of in 2025 as more people understand what it is.
That's interesting, and leads me to ask you about, what is a smart product, fintech product in your mind versus a great one? Or maybe we start with what is a great one? What has been a great one? How do you qualify it? How do you judge it? Because obviously we're not talking, it's not just the adoption. What are the ingredients that make you think that this is a great product? And then how does that differ from what you would call a smart product, or maybe others will call it an intelligent fintech product? Is it, the AI, the agentic AI, the LLMs? What is it? And maybe it's not even that, it's other technologies, or maybe you look at it in a different way. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll start with the great fintech products, and I think they tend. I've looked at a few, and I've tried to figure out what are the things that are common to all of the great fintech products, rather than going ground up and listing things out. Looking at great ones and coming back down. So one thing, and again, maybe coming from a biased perspective, but one thing that great fintech products have is relentless focus on the user. So a great product deeply understands its users' needs, pain points, aspirations, and it doesn't just solve the obvious problems, but it tries to uncover the hidden opportunities to improve the end user's life. So I mean, like Apple, for example, Apple versus PC back in the day, it's very similar in terms of the product, but the focus on the user is what made them very different and got them to where they are today. Seamless functionality, emotional connection. I think it's all well and good having a utility product that does something and solves a problem, but most of the great products are a kind of blend of the functionality, but also that great emotional design. They don't just do something, they delight the users through UI and the thoughtful little elements of surprise. I think a good broad example of this is Duolingo. Like was it last year? There was this huge Duolingo hype around streaks, and I think that's like just having a Duolingo streak, being able to pause, being able to restart, and comparing streaks and performance is one of the ways that they differentiated in the language learning market. Differentiation through innovation, and I mean this is a very obvious one. I probably don't even need to go through it, but it's one of those where the great products are always at the forefront of innovation, and they're not followers. I'd say that they're pack leaders.
As I hear you, I'm thinking we are over a decade of intense fintech funding, innovation, lots of startups, incumbents even, catching up in certain areas. We do have some incumbents that have really advanced their digital transformation. So it's not easy to identify these great fintech products anymore. What was great, 5 years ago is not great anymore, right? So it's extremely difficult to differentiate. It's extremely difficult to build a moat. And I think that one of the big problems right now with AI is exactly that a lot of things that we say, oh, that is really cool, it's great, but can you build a moat? Because LLMs are open, they're out there. How are you going to build something that can have a lifetime and can be monetized, right?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the question, you can build a moat, but the challenge for good versus great and the differentiation between good versus great is you can build a moat. It's keeping the moat as it is, stopping the moat from drying out is the challenge. So staying at the forefront, and the analogy I sometimes use here is, what's the difference between a good smart fintech and a great fintech? Or what's the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete at the top of their game? Usually the difference is consistency, like continuous improvement, always staying at the top for a long sustained period of time and performing at the highest level on a consistent basis. That's usually what makes an athlete great. Pick any athlete you want. Those are the characteristics commonly, and then go one level down, and those are the characteristics of good. And I think the same applies to fintech. The great fintechs, and again, if you want to list them, usually they've been very consistent. They've stayed at the forefront of tech. They've adopted new technologies as and when they feel it's appropriate to stay ahead, and they've done it on a long and a sustained period of time. And I think that's the difference between good and great, and that's why it's difficult to be great, because it's difficult to stay at the top for a consistent period of time.
So right now, I would say the two advanced technologies that can make that difference are AI, the advancements in AI, and blockchain. And I can't see that the existing cohort of scaled fintechs can really adopt these in a meaningful way and really transform their business model to become AI ledger native. That's a whole discussion. But tell me, in your book as a product specialist going forward and thinking of smart fintech products, is it really AI only that can make smart fintech products? Is it if you're not using AI, there's no way that you can come up with a smart fintech product that can have some lifetime?
I think it's going to become, with each, I was going to say year, but I think with each month, it's going to become more and more difficult to do that without AI, personally, because everyone else will be using AI. So you'll be at an instant disadvantage if you don't. That's my personal opinion on it. How I recommend product people specifically use it is just start implementing it in their day-to-day lives. I know so many who are. So they'll use AI to maybe structure a user story, or they'll use AI to review 15 different fintechs in the same vertical and say, what features do they have that we don't have? Use that to look at my backlog and maybe pull some of these features a bit higher up the list so we can compete in the same domain as them. So I think I agree with you, because I think what you're saying is you won't be able to compete without implementing AI, and I agree. I don't think it'll be possible. And also the classic, oh, AI won't replace us. AI will just be a co-pilot and help. Lots of the product work that I used to do and lots of product people are doing now, people don't really want to do. People don't necessarily want to write user stories for a whole day, and it's a very administrative task. And AI is perfect if you map it out, have the right structure to it, and give it the right inputs. It's perfect at saving 6 hours of your time, so you could have a face-to-face conversation with a customer and really get to the root of what are some challenges they're facing day to day to improve the product. So I think AI broadly will transform how fintechs are built over the next few years, definitely. And I think the thing that you mentioned earlier, which is probably a separate conversation, is I think bigger fintechs are going to go through a very similar sort of period of digital transformation that banks went through, where they're trying to transform and we messed it up a bit and we've got this big roadmap, but we don't quite finish it. I think bigger fintechs are going to are probably going to go for that same transformation period with AI. Some will do it very well. I think Ramp is doing a good job of slowly peppering in AI into part of its platform, and some will and Klarna is also doing a great job of that. And then some will maybe struggle with it and like not know where to start, and not be able to use AI in the right way to stay at the top and stay great. And I think to stay at the top and stay great, you're going to have to use AI somewhere. And mostly it's probably to perform some of those administrative tasks, analyze data and metrics en masse, and also use it to analyze customer feedback, use it to review competitors, use it to understand the market deep to stay great.
I think that up to now we've seen implementations that are really scratching the surface in contact centers, in marketing, retrieving knowledge and sort of trying to curate existing knowledge within organizations, but it hasn't reached what you mentioned now. How do you do ideation for product innovation? How do you do strategy in terms of how are you going to expand? Are you going to expand your customer base, your product base? You know, those types of things are still done à l'ancienne, right? It's there's no AI there, and soon we will have an AI at the board, at the C-suite, and probably your job. You're a product expert, like the chip designers at NVIDIA have an AI that is helping them, and they're designing more and better. I assume you're a believer that you will have one too.
Yeah, I haven't gone through those steps yet of fully analyzing my day-to-day and figuring out, okay, where can AI help, where can it not? What I use AI for is to grammar check my newsletters, because it's great at taking text en masse and figuring out, oh, Jas, you've missed 2 commas there.
Or to ask it, give me 5 alternative titles for the story that I'm writing.
I haven't got there yet because I've tried it for that, and they're just not as good as the ones I come up with. Just try. I'm being humble here, but they're not as good. But I'm sure it will get as, if I put this 50 or 60 newsletters I've written into it and say, here's the training data, now come up with titles, it probably would do a good job. I'm not at the point in terms of trusting OpenAI with my IP. Yeah, so I'm sure I'll get there.
Completely understood. Just I want to close our discussion, and I want to ask you if you were to give some advice around fintech product innovation, what would that be?
This, for me, it's quite an easy one, because the first one is start with real problems. Don't try and build something where you're not sure if a problem exists. And again, going back to great fintech products solve real customer pain points. So start by really understanding your audience, needs and behaviors, look at the market, and then try and see if there is a need for a new fintech, or to see if you could add more functionality to your existing product. Second, think globally, build locally. I know this is sometimes a bit cliche, but as we've found recently, building a PFM in the UK doesn't necessarily scale at the right time, and building success in one market doesn't guarantee you'll be scalable everywhere. So adapt the product to meet regulatory, cultural, and tech nuances of every region you expand to. And again, that's both of those things are where AI could really help with the understanding problems, understanding regulatory constraints, cultural constraints, technological adoption or advancement. And then third, which again is another AI potentially enabled bit of advice, build for resilience and agility. So everyone knows you have conversations with people all the time, and the conversation is probably moving at such a rapid rate, because we all know the fintech landscape is evolving very, very quickly. So design products with modularity and flexibility. Fundamental principles I learned when I did my computer science degree: modular, flexible products are the best products. So build products with modularity and flexibility so they can adapt to new tech, regulations, or changing customer expectations, which is inevitable in this market. And all 3 of those: start with real problems, think globally, build locally, build for resilience and agility. All 3, you'll be happy to hear, Effie, are only accelerated and benefit from the use of AI, in my opinion. So when you are taking those bits of advice, have an AI friend in the background helping you with some of those.
I hear from you, this is timeless advice. You just need to put it within the capabilities of AI to leverage it up. It's not like it's changing the core guidance, really.
Spot on. Exactly. Yeah. AI is there to help with these things. Frankly, these things, if you look at all products over the past, go back to physical products before the digital age, the best physical products have also been developed in this way, and they didn't have AI. So same principles exist. Now it becomes easier to execute on those three things, even with tight resources and time constraints, with the advent of AI.
So I guess the road is more uncertain as we go, because you might come up with brilliant products, but will they last? How adaptable are they? And I guess you can't be doing this once a year or when the competition is up your throat. You just have to do it continuously, and that's where AI could help with this intense competition out there.
100%. Yeah. And again, going back to the athlete analogy, Ronaldo doesn't train just before a game. He trains every single day, regardless of whether he's got a game or not. And it's the continuous development, the continuous learning, continuous development to stay peak is what everyone needs to do, and not sleep on, oh, we've got 1 million customers. Great. It's right. Nick said it, 1 million customers, 10 million customers, 50 million customers. The next target is 100 million. And it's always looking and learning and improving. That's the key.
I love the analogy, and I'll close with this. Thank you very much, Jas.
Thank you.